and I'm here interviewing one of the founders of the Bentleigh Methodist Football Club, as it was then, Colin Richards. Good afternoon, Colin.
G'day, how are you?
Very well. Now, Bentleigh Methodist Football Club started in 1965. You were right there at the start.
That's about right. It was started by a group of boys or men from the Methodist Church who decided they'd like to have a football team. And that's basically where it got started from.
And did you go to the Bentleigh Methodist Church?
Yes.
Okay. And I hear that you were the inaugural secretary of the club.
Yes, nobody else would take it on.
I know how that happens in a club. And so, how did you go about getting a committee?
We had the first meeting we held. We elected a president, which was Ralph Phillips, and we had at that meeting, if I remember rightly, probably about 6 or 7 people interested in the club starting. Jeff Mason was one. He became the captain and coach of the club. And basically just sat down in a group and worked out how we were going to get it started. So we'd already made some inroads into getting or joining the Positive Churches Association, and it went from there.
And so the first committee, I'm told, took office on the 4th of March 1965, which is over 55 years ago.
That's about right.
Yeah. So had you played football before going to Bentleigh?
Had I?
Yes.
Yes, I had a very checkered career in football. I enjoyed it. I played at school, at state school, and the school was Ormond East, and we became the Metropolitan Premiers, which got us all started, all excited. But then, due to a variety of things happening, I ended up giving it away when I was about 14 because I had a disagreement with the coach, and and I said, "Oh, if that's the way you want to run it," and I left. I then came back when I was about 16 or 17. I met a guy at the trade school. I was doing an apprenticeship, who played with me at the Ormond East, and he asked me if I was still playing. I said, no, I wasn't, and he was disappointed. He said, you better come and play with me for the Ormond Church of Christ. Sorry, Glenhunting Church of Christ. And we played down in Bamburay. So I played for them for about, 5 or 6 years. Then they disbanded through lack of players. And at that stage, I thought it was time to get married and started building a house. So my weekends were spent building the house that I'm living in now. And then during that, towards the end of that, I was my late 20s, was when 65 they came along and said they wanted to start the Bentleigh Football Club.
Okay.
So that's my involvement up to that point.
All right. So 2 things out of that. Did you go to Ormond East Primary School?
I went to Ormond East, yes.
Well, that's something we share, and I never knew that until we're talking about this right now. I went there as well.
You went there as well?
Yeah, I went there in the 60s, so that's a small world, isn't it?
After me.
Yeah, after you.
Yep.
And you're a builder.
Oh, righto. And where did you go after that?
I went to McKinnon Secondary College.
Oh, righto. I went to Oakley Tech.
Okay.
And that was where probably the biggest disappointment of life. I was 3 of us from the Oakley Tech football team were elected to go and train at Princes Park in the Metropolitan Schoolboys. And when I look back now, that was a golden opportunity to advance. The unfortunate thing, I was told to be at Princes Park, and I went to Princes Park in Caulfield. It was down in Princes Park, I knew.
Yeah.
And my parents were not interested in football at all. So I was on my own. So that, and the sports master or sports teacher at Oakley Tech collared me on the Monday. I was supposed to be there Saturday. Monday morning, he comes up and says, "What happened to you on Saturday? Why didn't you show up?" And I explained to him I'd gone to Princes Park, and he said, "We didn't see you there." And I realised then it was the wrong Princes Park. And he really didn't have a lot more involvement with me.
Okay. Now, 1965 is Bentley's first season. They're playing in D. They're playing in D grade in the Western Churches Association. How did they go in their first year?
Reasonable. Hard to remember, but I would guess and say we probably won maybe half of the games we played.
That's a pretty good effort for a team that's just starting.
Yes, it was. And most of that was the fact that we were in the lowest grade, and we had some pretty good players. As you probably have heard of Bruce Aiken and
yep,
a few of those. Jeff Mason played for Melbourne, so he was a very experienced player. And yeah, we didn't do bad.
And you'd already said that Jeff Mason, he was captain and coach in the first year?
Yes.
What sort of coach was he?
He was one of these guys, and I've been accused of being in the same boat, that we suffered white line fever.
Okay.
On one side of the white line, you were one person, and on the other side of the line, you were another person.
Okay.
Both of us were probably aggressive. Nothing would get in your way to get to the ball and all that sort of stuff. He went, if there was a criticism, he would not bother. He would abuse, or wouldn't abuse them, but he would tell the umpires what he thought of them. He was quite a religious person, so he never swore, but he was ordered off the ground many times.
Okay. So what position did you play in that first season?
From memory, I played a bit of what we had ruck rover in those days, and I played a bit of centre half back.
Okay. And what jumper number did you play in?
2.
Okay. And what sort of season did you have in your first year at Bentley?
Just average. I at that stage was getting into my late 20s. And that's not the best time to be coming back to playing football. And I was running my own business. So you were a bit nervous about getting injured, the effect it would have on you. So.
Okay. Now, the first home ground for Bentley was King George VI Memorial Reserve in East Boundary Road.
In East Boundary Road, yep.
Yep. And they were there for 3 years, 65 to 67.
Yeah, that'll be about right.
Okay. And then in 1968 was the big move to Mackie Reserve.
Yes, we found out that the club that had Mackie Reserve had folded up. And so we quite quickly got onto the council and we obtained that ground. Better conditions, but a better clubhouse. It's improved now, but it was better than what we had.
So for the people who are watching and don't know, just what were the change rooms like at King George in the mid 60s?
For the people watching,
yeah.
Well, you had a fence around the ground for a start. King George, one or two of us had to get there early and mark the ground out every Saturday before the game. That was something we had to do. Up at Mackie, that wasn't such a big deal. The boundary markings seemed to be almost permanent. From the crowd's point of view, there was a bit of a veranda outside the clubhouse, so if it rained, they could get a little bit of protection. And we also about 3 or 4 wives ran a canteen out of a tent on just inside the boundary line.
And one of those would have been your wife, wouldn't it?
Yep.
And I think
Jeff Mason's wife.
And Jim Manili's wife as well.
Jim Manili's wife, yep.
Yeah. Uh, is it a surprise to you that Bentley's fortunes change with the change to Mackie Reserve? Because 68 sees them play in the finals.
68 was the year we won our premiership.
Yep.
And that was that probably the most successful period of time the club's had for quite some time.
Yeah. Where'd they finish on the ladder in 68?
I think we finished top or second, I'm not sure.
Okay. And who did you play in the grand final?
Mont Albert.
And was it an easy win or a tough one?
No, it was a tough one. We won by 98 points.
they're always the good grand finals.
Yes.
Okay, and can you remember who played well on that day?
To win by that much, you'd have to say that most of the guys put in and played well.
Yeah. What did you think of your game?
Oh no, I was relatively happy that day.
Okay.
But with the centre half forward and the full forward, they were two outstanding players.
So was that
Bruce Aiken, particularly, as you probably know, run the association goal kicking and all that sort of stuff.
was John Lilly playing centre half forward?
John Lilly was playing centre half forward.
Yeah.
I was playing at centre half back, which was where I was basically playing at that stage. I like the back line because with the balls coming into you, you are just going straight at it and continuing straight forward. You don't have to twist and turn and try and find a goal, and it's always straightforward. But you knew that if you could get the ball in the middle of the ground, you had John Lilly at centre half forward and Bruce Aiken, and you roost the ball down to them, good chance they're going to mark it.
Yeah. So did that mean that Bentley was promoted for the next season?
Yes, it was. I think we went to C grade.
And played finals again in 1969, I believe.
We played finals again in 69, yeah.
Yeah. Where did they finish on the ladder that year?
No, I can't remember.
Okay. But didn't get through to the grand final?
No. We never got through to a grand final again, and I can't remember the year. The year that I coached, we got through the grand final and we played Surrey Hills, I think. And we were 5 goals down at half time and lost by 2 points from memory.
I think that was 1972 that you coached.
Yeah, that'd probably be right.
Yeah.
I can't remember the year of that exactly.
Yeah, that was 72. And then in the next year, in 1970, just going back to where we were, 1970, you also played finals.
Oh, I can't remember that bit.
Yeah. So, but as you said, there was a fairly successful run for the club.
Yes, it was. And it was a fairly stable club, fairly stable team. The players were there and they were there for some years. They weren't chopping and changing and leaving the club. Or it was a group of guys that really stuck together.
Now, I've heard that when you got to Mackie in 1968, there were no floodlights at the ground.
No.
What did you do to light up the oval?
Not much. Yeah, no, that's right. There wasn't any floodlights. But we tried to get there earlier before it got too dark. But, I mean, there's not much else you could do. There was a couple of lights on the veranda of the clubhouse or the change rooms. There was a couple of floodlights, but they didn't light up the ground. They just lit up around the front, and you tend to use them.
Okay. So
when you look at what the boys have got there, it's chalk and cheese.
Well, it is, isn't it? Yes. So how many seasons did you play with Bentley? From 65 until when? When did you retire?
Gee, I really can't remember. I probably played for them for about 7 or 8 years.
Okay.
And I retired when I was about 36.
Okay. And you had only one season as coach?
Sorry?
You only had one season as coach?
I had 2 seasons
Two
coach.
seasons.
Yeah.
Who was...
That's why, and I will admit, I was not the best coach.
Oh,
I hadn't coached or been taught any of that.
yeah.
It was just what you picked up, particularly from Jeff Mason. And you realise afterwards that you were not the best coach in the business. And if anything, I had great faith in the team that we picked on Thursday. And when things were going on out the ground, you had a tendency to say, these blokes will come good, they'll do that. And it didn't always work, of course.
Well, you did pretty well in your first season getting to a grand final.
Yeah.
Lots,
I know it was the first. I'm not sure now that was the first or the second.
okay, well, but you made a grand final, lost by 2 points. That's not bad.
Yeah, no, that was all right.
Yeah.
All that happened there, we'd had a fairly prominent year, and we finished, I think, either second top or top, and we played Surrey Hills. Surrey Hills captain was the son of a bloke, and I can't remember his name, that played league for North Melbourne. Okay, and his father showed up at all the matches, and he was basically doing the coaching. But on the day of the grand final, because we were a fairly strong marking side, the drier the ground, the better. And it rained on Friday night and drizzled on Saturday morning, and we didn't handle that well. But as the ground dried out by half time, we were about 5 goals down, and we nearly pegged them back.
Okay. Now, who were the best Bentley players you've seen in your time at the club?
Well, the 3 that we've talked, Jeff Mason certainly was one, but he's an ex-league footballer, or VFL footballer. Bruce Aiken would be the best mark and the straightest kick I've probably seen, and John Lilly. We had a bloke at full back called Alan Clissold. He was quite good. Bob Tidball was a rover. He was okay. And we had a bloke, tall, skinny bloke called Burgess. He was Park Ruckman. But look, there was a few of them in that game, in that side.
Okay. Who was the best opposition player you saw while you were playing?
I don't know. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't really come up with that one.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Which AFL team do you support?
Then or now?
Then.
Well, all my life I've barracked for South Melbourne.
Right.
And my father took me to one of the rarest games he took me to see Bob Pratt play for South Melbourne or the South Melbourne ground. And I thought that was pretty good. And I was only a kid then, but I followed South Melbourne for nearly all my life. It's only been the last 6 or 7 years. My 2 boys initially, we used to go to the St Kilda games. We could go and meet my brother and go down there. So they were St Kilda supporters. Dean's now in Melbourne, but my eldest son is still a keen St Kilda supporter. And he used to get tickets every now and then. So I got invited to go with him to the football, which was good. So my allegiance to Sydney or to South Melbourne when they went to Sydney waned. And I tended to go to the St Kilda games with my son on the odd occasion. And now I'm a member of St Kilda.
Okay, and I think you said you built the house that you're still living in. So I take it you're still living in Bentley?
Yeah.
And how long you lived? And have you lived in Bentley all your life?
No, I've moved a long way. I lived in McKinnon. I lived in Penang Street behind the McKinnon Hotel.
Okay.
So I moved up McKinnon Road to East Boundary Road, and there I built a house.
Okay. Do you still get to Bentley games?
No. No, there was a change. Well, I won't get too technical, but there was a change in personnel within the club at the end of my coaching career. And there were some blokes that came into the club that weren't particularly happy with me. And it was time for me to retire anyway. So I decided to retire. And we got to the stage then when Dean was playing football and he got involved with the Bentley Club, and I thought, it's his club now, not mine.
Yeah.
I got involved in playing golf. So I became a very keen golfer.
Okay, and do you play at a club?
Sorry?
Do you play golf at a club?
I played Keysborough.
Okay, and if you don't mind me asking, what's your handicap?
Now it's 24, unfortunately.
What did you get it down to?
The best it ever got down to was 15.
That's not bad.
Oh, it's okay.
That's all right.
Yeah.
And do you still play now?
Yep.
How often?
Sorry?
How often do you get out?
Twice a week.
Okay.
I play Wednesdays and Fridays when the government let me.
Well, interesting times we're in at the moment, isn't it?
Well, it is. And I suppose, although I get frustrated, I probably should be satisfied that at 84 I can play 2 9-holes of golf. Two 18 holes of golf.
Well,
I can't hit the ball like I used to.
no, but you're not hitting it too bad.
That's all right.
I'm damn sure I couldn't get down to your score, even at my age. Listen, thanks for talking with us today, Colin. It's not often you speak to someone who was there right at the very start of a football club. Bentley's in its 55th year, and the club now can thank people like yourself for putting it on the map when you did and looking after it in those early years so that people have now got somewhere to play and congregate. So
there's not many of us left anymore.
No,
that's an original committee.
That's right. That's why it's important to do these interviews and talk to the people who are actually there.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
No worries. Thanks, Mark.